Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever the heck you are on the planet. Today, I want to speak about cognitive dissonance, and part of what stirred that up. You might have seen in the media when Jordan Peterson, that famous psychologist, was going to lose his license, and he was being forced to go to a re-education thing. The reason being is because he did not accept that a 13-year-old can change his gender on diving into that, what's up with mainstream doctors, especially in America, promoting this sort of stuff? Well, actually, they're not, they're being pressured, you know, and a couple of other things. It's kind of weird. Like, we kind of live a little bit in a weird upside down world. Another one, Graham Hancock, you know, totally not racist. I dare you to find anything he's ever said that was racist. All he ever talks about is how the ancient pyramid builders were not as primitive as we thought. And he brings up evidence such as water erosion on the Sphinx, but Egypt is in a desert and it wasn't a water erosion but 10,000 years ago, meaning they should be older. There's been no pharaohs found in the pyramid. This is all, you can fact check it, and pointing out the shortfalls of modern Egyptology, but he gives no opinion. He just says, we don't know, and there's a bigger mystery. To which the media responds, this guy's a racist because he is claiming that humans couldn't build such a thing. It must have been aliens, right? And that leads me to my point today. Let's talk about cognitive dissonance, because I named this channel Students of Tehuti because I am a fellow student on the path of life, busy learning, wanting to get to truth and get closer to truth, get to the highest ideal. But in order for us to do so, we need to be impartial. Can't let our emotions get the better of us. And the truth is the truth. It's not what we want to believe. Sorry about the camera moving. My cats are having a little cat fight at the bottom, and it's shaking my freaking camera. Okay, well, I've managed to break it up. But yeah, we from our side, as well as when we're communicating, we need to be aware of other people's cognitive dissonance, but we need to, from our side, actually put our emotions aside, look at the information, and come to a conclusion. Now, sometimes that can be easier. If you did a maths calculation and it was wrong, you're like, okay, cool, I'll correct it. But if the problem is our fundamental beliefs that we build other beliefs on top of, this is fundamental stuff like our outlook on life. Let's put it this way. It will be harder to drop a belief if you've been a priest and you've been part of a particular religion or sect for 10 years, and now you're only beginning to doubt. Or maybe we'll be fair. Let's say maybe this could also happen to atheists, where they could also change their mind, but you're so used to being that, maybe you've even like argued and now, whatever. It could work for any beliefs, right? So let's look into cognitive dissonance, actually, and I'll explain how it relates to the Jordan Peterson thing. But cognitive dissonance is a real thing. It occurs when a person's behavior or beliefs do not complement each other, or when they hold two contradictory beliefs. It causes a feeling of discomfort and motivates people to try to feel better. People may do this via defense mechanisms such as avoidance. So we kind of like to think we are logical, rational people, but actually, when we look at our own psychology, your brain would much prefer just to keep the beliefs it already has, because it's a lot more comfortable. It's built these neurons and structures, and they there, right? And the problem is when we get exposed to a new belief, we can't just now integrate that new belief. Sometimes we need to like rethink everything. It's that whole point of rewriting the history book. Say, for years we've believed, let's take the ages, we believed the earth was flat, and then we find out it's round, then we have to change how we do everything. And that can be uncomfortable. That can create a sense of anxiety. That can create chaos, because one thought they understood the world and turns out that they didn't. And what one does is avoidant behavior. I am saying this because, well, let me just show you something over here. I am at macrotrends.net, okay? And it is busy showing the world deaths. But more importantly, it is showing the percentage, not the number of world deaths, because there's always new people being born, right? There's always new people being born. So you actually need to see the percentage of people who are dying out of the amount of people in total, right? That's the thing with stats. We must always look at the percentage. That's also what I didn't like with the COVIDs. They never looked at the percentage of people being tested. They looked at the number of cases. But notice something interesting. This graph goes all the way to the 1950s and it goes all the way to 2023. Okay, well, that's the segment I've opened. Now, we had more deaths for, this is the 1950s, for 50 years, all the way till the COVIDs. And really, if you zoom in, this thing actually began going up just before the COVIDs even existed in 2018, when the COVIDs apparently didn't exist. Okay. But we locked down the entire world economy. And by the way, flu cases apparently went to zero during the COVIDs. We have proof that the inventor of the PCR test, Kary Mullis, said you cannot use this test to diagnose diseases. Now you could say, dude, but Kary Mullis was a quack. He said a lot of weird stuff. Okay, awesome. He was clever enough to create a test that's apparently valid enough to use for the COVID. So I don't know. Either the man is a quack, doesn't know what the heck he's doing, so we shouldn't use his test, or maybe he's clever enough to have his opinion taken seriously. But we can't ask him because the guy died conveniently just before COVID. Like, I believe it was a month or two before. You can go search when Kary Mullis died. But the ultimate point was, if you look at a timetable of the COVID, event, it happened on the 10th of January. That was when WHO published a comprehensive package guidance for countries, and then basically it goes on to say they were discovering a weird virus in Wuhan, and they did not know what it was. But a lot of people who've been like awake to this stuff have actually covered extensively that the companies that profited from the vaccine 2 months before 2 months before the virus even apparently existed, before they announced on the news there was some weird virus in Wuhan. Many of the, the vaccine companies, the World Health Organization, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, all sat around a meeting and discussed, guys, what are we ever going to do if there ever was a new coronavirus? But not just any new coronavirus, a virus that is genetically adapted and managed to become so contagious it spread to the entire planet, right? And then one of their big plans was to get funding, and then conveniently enough, that virus would appear 2 months later. You can actually watch the video of them sitting around this table, and everything they discussed ended up happening. Lockdowns, ban on travel, all that sort of stuff. And wrong link. It is the very next one over here. I am going to open that one. There we go. Okay, we're into massive simulation. Let's click that button over there. Okay, so this was done in the 4th of November 2019. And if you go back to your calendar, you read the history of the COVIDs. Back then, the timeline. Back then, we didn't even know it existed. And apparently in January, it was mysterious. There was some weird thing in Wuhan. No one really knew what it was. They're trying to isolate the virus. This is in plain sight. This is from the Center for Health and Security, a mainstream body that also profited from the vaccine, and who, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has many shares in. The second biggest funder to America was the Bill and Melinda Gates. What am I saying? I'm saying the proof is in the open. But you would go up to a person during this time period and tell them, and they would say, I don't want to see it. It's a conspiracy. I don't want to see it. It's conspiracy. You can even go to on Google, the Center for Health and Security event 201. You can find it on their own page. Now, why do people do this? It is the same reason why, if you said back in the day to someone, you know that the world is round, look at it, it's flat. How can you say that the world is round? It is the same reason, they used to, burn witches close to the time period of the burning of the London Bridge, which I believe was it 1666? That just shows, like, you can't make this stuff up, right? Okay, burning, let's say burning of London Bridge. Okay, look, it was in, here's the link, it was in I should actually say when. Let's have it in big text on the screen. When was the burning of London Bridge? It was in, what's this? In 1135, London Bridge was destroyed. Okay, that's not the one I'm looking for. I'm going to go here. So you can see it was from, it was, if you go to this page, it was in 1666. Well, do you remember 9/11? That was also a play on numbers. I don't know why they like playing with numbers. COVID happened in 2020, you know. There's went up to 2021 was when they made the vaccine. There was Agenda 21. I don't know. They seem to like the numbers. Okay, when did World War One end? So it was World War One, and it ended on the 11th of the 11th, okay, 1989. If you actually check the time, you'd see the time even fitted with the ones. So 1 1 1 1 1 1. You remember those angel numbers like 11 11 on the clock, right? And so, you know, you can believe it or not, but I don't know why they seem to like these numbers. You know, I'm saying the evidence is out there. I mean, but because of people's preconceived notions, I'm going to get into my thoughts on all of this in a moment. But remember, speed of light, you know, and then you have over here something like the pyramid coordinates. Okay, you know, you have same number over there, right? Well, how did the Egyptians know about the meter and degrees? Don't worry, watch my other videos, I explain that. And then also things like lifting 70-ton stones, 200 tons. So where the 200-ton stones are, Andrea, I searched and I saw that the limestone blocks were, yes, the limestone. Most of the pyramids were built with limestone, but the heaviest stones is in the king chamber, which is far above ground, and you know, it's made out of granite, right? So yeah, but anyways, there's a lot of evidence out there. You can send people links, and very few will look at it unless they're troubled or on the fence. And I suppose that's really what we do these videos for, are those who are troubled and opening their mind or their senses. Something ain't exactly right. Okay, 13-year-old changed their gender without permission, just like kids can get vaccinated without their mother's permission. Or with the COVIDs, they would do more testing and then the cases would rock up. And I wonder, it's a big mystery as to why the cases are going up. We need to lock down. If they only did a freaking percentage of the number of people being tested. Because look, if I did an IQ test on 10 people and we got one genius, then the next month I did it on, you know, 1,000 people and I got 100 geniuses. It's not that your education system is improving and more people are becoming smart. No, it's that you tested more people. Okay. And they know this. I mean, these are the people at the top, they're doctors, scientists, they're not dumb, but they can act very dumb, like wanting a 13-year-old to change their gender. Now, I do understand in this, I'm going to be fighting against Google's algorithm because, I mean, speech to text is a thing today. There's medical misinformation policy. Let's see how it goes. I mean, I know on the earliest days of this channel, I was getting like 24,000 views. What's it like 1.4 thousand? Then I took a break. And then when I came back, because the COVIDs was bugging me so much, I started doing videos on COVID. I don't know if that's the reason. Was a break. 69 views, 43, stuff like that. And yet, this is important. People think this COVID stuff is over. I mean, okay, well, not for the people that lost their jobs, because their jobs fundamentally required on public events for a virus that was apparently only harming the elderly and stuff like that. I never took a vaccine. I mean, I never social distanced. I know a 70-year-old grandma who never took the vaccine, social distanced, who was actually part of the protest. I know a 50-year-old. Where are these people's viruses? And then I know somebody who got the vaccine and all their children got sick. So, and they say you can take the vaccine, still get the virus, but then they say, disclaimer, it makes you less likely to. Yeah, okay. So my point is, why when evidence is in, oh yes, and the other one, like Arvin, I made a post on the coordinates of the speed of light being the coordinates of the pyramids being the same as the speed of light, and Arvin responds saying, well, actually, that number's off. Actually, this is the real number. I compared the two numbers, and my number didn't exactly go through. It went through the pyramid, but didn't exactly go through the peak. It was like this much off. You can watch the video. Both went through the pyramids, and the line was like this. Now, for a bunch of basic stone cutters, give them a break, you know? And by the way, I do cover, well, did the ancient Egyptians have the same system of measuring the world in 360 degrees? Because that's how we measure longitude and latitude. I answer all that. And did they know about the meter? But something told me, and this is a clever guy, a very clever guy. He's got a lot of good videos in physics, but when he saw this, and I don't know for sure, maybe he can show me wrong, and I'm open-minded. I'm willing to accept when I'm wrong, but I feel like he just did a quick search on Google, read an article. He even said, and I quote, some people actually say this is the closer estimates. I don't know if he found his way to Snopes, but I don't think he fact-checked it. I don't think he looked it up. I don't think he searched the probability or the statistical odds of such happening. So now let's get into our point of cognitive dissonance. I think everyone has it, to some degree, whether you are a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, whether you're pagan, whether you're agnostic, and even the atheists. I mean, atheists love to say to everyone that they have, cognitive dissonance is a bad thing and give the facts and the evidence and stuff like that. The problem is a lot of these people, not all of them, but a lot of these people aren't practicing real science. Actually, they're practicing blind faith in what they see as professionals. I mean, I don't really trust professionals, because these same people can say a 13-year-old can change their gender. So, but Andrea, that's manipulation by the state. Yes, exactly. There's a difference between science and scientists. Science is a method. A scientist practices the scientific method, but they are still human. They are subject to making mistakes. They go to the bathroom like you and me, and they need funding. And they're also subject to human emotions like greed and stuff. This is not the world you think you live in. We trust too much. We trust way too much, like with the COVIDs. And the problem is, with a lot of people trying to speak truth, they are competing with this big, massive engine. It's called the media, the mainstream media. And that can be quite a challenge and a half. During the COVIDs, I was living in the UK, and I had an IT job. And I went through the ball ache of all of a sudden my landlady, whenever I wanted to go out, saying, no, you cannot go out. You're going to get your other lodgers sick and stuff like that. And obviously me doing the right thing as a flesh and blood human said, sorry, I'm a free person. When I began renting here, there was nothing in the agreement that I would be prisoner to this home that I'm paying money to live in. I'm going to go out and do what I want. And by the way, I mean, more people died in 2050 all the way to 2080. I've shown you a video of 2 months. She said it was weird. She said she didn't understand it, but she said there must be a reason. That's cognitive dissonance. It's like anything that's against the belief, you filter out. Anything that's for the belief, you do. Anyways, I did my own thing, and I would often approach, I often approach people, talk to them. I would talk on, the media, and I knew very soon what would follow shortly after is losing my IT job. But what I was doing was more important than my individual self. There was something bigger at play, something much, much bigger. And I had to make the choice, Am I going to bend over backwards, follow these silly rules? Many countries forced you to get the vaccine, right? Otherwise, you couldn't enter into shops and feed yourself. We live in a society where we don't produce our own food. We're not independent as individuals. We get it from miles away, And I would eventually leave the UK and come back to my home country, South Africa. And that's a big one because, when I lost my job, you get universal credits. I had the choice to do that, but I went out of there. I tell you what actually really bothered me was I actually did some trips back and forth from South Africa. When I came back to the UK, I literally had a police officer knock on my door, go search this. It was a real thing. It was during that time period. There was apparently a new variant from South Africa. And he said, "Oh, I'm just checking to see if you're social distancing. Are you Andrea?" I thought to myself, if I was upstairs asleep, if I was ill, if I was downstairs in the passage and I couldn't come to the door, then what, you know? And after all this, I think it's very safe to conclude that humans are idiots. Hopefully not you watching it, but you can agree with me. Humans are idiots. They are full of cognitive bias, fears and anxieties, emotions and stuff like that, right? And there's often this thing where they say, man, don't try to force your views on everyone. Everyone has a right to their own belief. But when the news told everyone they were going to die, all of a sudden, everyone was pressuring their points of view on me. I wasn't allowed to leave the home because of my landlady. I mean, people were putting pressure. I mean, get the vaccine or at least get like some sort of PCR test and stuff like that. I mean, you weren't allowed in shops and stuff. And really, looking at the stats, I mean, like, how many deaths was there really? I mean, look at, and they silently did this. It wasn't in the news. The Pfizer adverse reactions, how many are on there? Or, and I can fact check this if you ask, I mean, because of the Disclosure of Information Act, like, um, there was a message, and this is on a UK.gov website, where they asked, could you disclose the mRNA sequence? Now, we're not talking about the ingredients, because one of the ingredients is just mRNA, but mRNA is a line of RNA code that messages your body what to do. This person asked, what is a sequence? And they said, that is trade secrets. As a company, we are not allowed to show that to you because it will affect our profits. Oh, brilliant. So a virus that's killing half of the planet, and you want to talk about profits, so you're going to hide some of the most important details. Idiots. Sorry, I have to just rant. Cool. How do you, so let's talk about how you talk to a cognitive dissonance person, how to deal with your own. And by the way, disclaimer, you will not respond to them like the way I just did, like idiots. Maybe sometimes. I know a lot of us who's gone through a very hard struggle. I know family members that have lost their jobs because their jobs fundamentally worked upon being outdoors and around people, and they had to move. They couldn't rent in the place they're staying. But it was okay then. I mean, people need to eat to survive, but it's fine if they're not surviving from the food. But if they're very scary, if they die from a virus and most people recover from, it's like, okay. But usually some things I've learned to do, in general conversations. But honestly, I think in these videos, I'm speaking to the people who are either converted or mostly converted or on the fence, or people who are already open-minded, I just think that's my demographic. But yeah, when it comes to speaking to other people, like about cognitive dissonance, let's say you're talking to a flat earth or something, don't open up and say, the world is not flat, because the moment you say because, the brain is either a filter or an amplifier. It's either going to filter out what you're saying, or it's going to amplify. And it filters anything it doesn't believe or anything that hurts, and it amplifies what they already believe. So if you tell a Christian about Jesus, oh, they're going to, amen, brother. If you tell an atheist of how crap Christianity is, they're going to agree with you. I mean, it's pretty common sense. We've seen it. So don't open with your stance, because you will trigger a strong emotional reaction. Mention the oddity, mention the peculiarity. So, for example, someone's very hard on this COVID propaganda, you would say, I just saw something very odd the other day. I was looking at percentage of statistics, and all the way from 1950s to 80s, there were more deaths. Yeah, that's odd. You would think that a virus that's affecting the whole planet would kill less people. I mean, sorry, a virus that's killing, the entire planet would spike up these numbers. And then you leave it. Sometimes don't always give them the conclusion. Sometimes you can, it depends on circumstances. Just leave them with that. Let them think the idea was their own, because people have egos. If they feel like you're trying to force an idea on them, it doesn't really work. I don't always do this, by the way. Sometimes, I don't have the time and, to think it out. I just tell my point of view. And one day, You know, they'll go through some sort of crisis or it really bug them what's happening in the world. And once they've heard something, they can't unhear it. They will vaguely remember, but this sounds very similar to what this guy was speaking about. Oh, more information has come out by the mainstream media that, you know, Wuhan was doing gain of function research. Oh, it sounds familiar, you know. It might be it sounds familiar because it probably would have half forgotten it, but hopefully they still have your message somewhere, you know. Yeah, it is important though, because the perspectives of other people in society unfortunately affect you, like you saw with the perverts, right? So yeah, just and then a little while later, tell them something else that's odd, like, what date did the COVIDs begin? Oh yes, it was in January. So I just saw this video, right, of them planning what to do for a coronavirus, and by the way, I did videos on that event 201 where I actually give screenshots of the panic buying. You know, where is it now? Is it even on here still? Where is this video? I mean, what was it, removed? Was it blocked? Interesting. No, man. Okay, I did a bunch of videos. I don't see it here. I don't want to jump to conclusions. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yes. Okay. No, okay, I thought it was under a different name. Okay. And I also had my Zoom little camera thing in the way. So let's see. So yeah, basically here I actually go through, I watch the video with you and I take a horse to water. Let's see if they can drink. I show screenshots of the panic buying and, like, you know, flight plans being cancelled. I mean, I would need to actually really snoop around in this actually to find those specific scenes, but you can watch it. Ironically, it is one of the videos that have gotten the lowest views because people watch more how our reality is pixelated and quantum mechanics and stuff. I don't know. I think, is this maybe not more important? Because that was a big thing, you know. It's a big thing, and a lot of medical companies are now richer and more in a position to screw people because of the mass level of ignorance, you know. Let's see, I'm just scrolling over here. Okay, yeah, so I was going to recommend to you people, don't state your views up front, just state oddities, holes, and what's going to happen is, well, they're going to accept it on board, be more likely to accept it because it will feel less like an attack. And as the contradictions build up, they will get to the next stage. Something is wrong. And with uncomfortable emotions, you need to digest it. You know, you need to eat it one bite at a time. So you don't want to, like, shock them all at once and, you know, shake their whole reality, but get them questioning. And then eventually they're like, but something isn't right in the world. And, you know, awesome. Yeah. And then also with regards to this stuff, you know, look into, I want to show you a couple of other things. This is a great channel to look at. Uh, Also search the Pandemic Prevention, Preparedness and Response Accord. I mean, a lot of people thought the COVIDs was over. I mean, the damage is still there, but after the COVIDs, countries around the world signed a treaty with the World Health Organization, which is a private company that nobody voted for. And it basically, the treaty says that many of these countries, the World Health Organization will override many of these countries and respond to a new virus on their behalf. It's, if it sounds a lot like a one world government, it's because it kind of is, right? So yeah, go look at this guy's got such amazing content on the World Economic Forum. They've written documents, they've given talks as to Davos, what they want to do. Go look into climate lockdowns. Let's talk about climate lockdowns. But yeah, climate. Anyone who has been on this path for quite some time, I mean, you know, you see mainstream news, how a 15-minute city, livable climate lockdown. Okay, you go look at the World Economic Forum and everything they've been speaking about. Too much to cover in one video, and I'm on 24 minutes. So yeah, we need to get through people's cognitive dissonance, and that's one way. Don't start with your conclusion. You'll switch them off. start with the evidence. And the second is we also need to work on our own cognitive dissonance, because, I mean, no matter what you want to think, there's always something we want to believe. There's always an emotional direction we want to go, and there's always something we're running in. So knowledge and wisdom isn't just a matter of, isn't just a matter of the mind. It isn't cold and calculated. It's also a matter of the heart and integration of the heart. And this is something that's left out in modern society because we're very left-brained. And on this channel, I call myself student of Tehuti. I want to show you, this is the Egyptian god. God, Ma'at, was the symbol of truth and order. You could call her the opposite of Apep. And she's often seen with the scales. Oh yes, they are the scales of Ma'at. Let me write that, scales of Ma'at. Okay, there's a lot I can say on this lady. We'll talk about it more, sometime. But I want you to just notice one thing in the picture. Okay, there's an image of a scale. They're weighing their heart in the afterlife. But oh man, I want a big image. Yeah, but they're weighing the person's heart against a feather. Now, I won't get into it now, but you could see the feathers, intellect, logic, and reason. They used to write with feathers in those times, and that's why we also see Tehuti, the god of knowledge, always writing with, often writing with a feather. And they said your heart needs to be lighter than the feather. Your heart mustn't be heavy, because when our hearts are heavy and we are fearful, we cannot think straight. And I think one of the biggest problems with COVID was, even though they were saying trust the science, it was more like a religious dogmatic thing, because it wasn't really science. You would give the percentage of stats, not the number of cases. So our heart needs to be lighter than the feather. We need to be open-minded. We need to develop emotional intelligence and bravery. And I'm going to say something. I'll just close with this. A lot of our ignorance and folly as human beings is not even in logic. It's in emotion. And if you go deep enough, it is our fear of death, the desire to protect the body, and our fear of pain, whether that's a Christian being afraid of eternal hellfire. So they don't know what's going to happen when they die, but subconsciously they say, let me just take the safest bet, I'm Christian. And once then your mind is closed off, because if that's the root, and a lot of people don't know they have that as a root, how can you expand and grow as a person? Because as you start learning other stuff, you get fearful, because some Christians, and not the original Christianity, but some Christians believe that anything that's not their view is satanic and dark, which is, very arrogant. But I wanted to actually give a series on this. There's a Christian fundamentalist, and he says the biblical case for everyone going to heaven. And even though I myself am not a fundamentalist, oh my God, he does a great job. He refers only to verses in the Bible. But I'll give you another point. With the COVID, there was this fear of dying. People stick to jobs they hate because of this fear to dying. And there's a little bit of truth in that, right? Now, remember the story of Adam and Eve. God said, you will not eat off the tree of knowledge of good or evil. That is duality, goodness and suffering. Not eat off the tree of knowledge of good or evil, because in the day you eat off it, you will die. It's what sets the whole biblical story off, is death and the fear of death. In fact, Eve went to the realm of the dead. And that's a topic for another day, right? If anyone wants to know what I believe, though, bringing up these points, I'm just an open-minded individual that believes where the information leads me. And currently at the moment, I do believe in a higher power. I believe in the Creator. I believe he went to all tribes throughout the planet originally. But because we're humans, and humans are very pathetic creatures, they distorted the message. They changed it over time. They developed hierarchies. I looked at the history, like the Bible saying there's only one God. That actually started in Egypt and Zoroastrianism. It started with Akhenaten, actually. And I think the reason why he did that was because if you look at Egypt mythology, actually, they're all the same God. And the texts say this, like, they are all the many forms of the sun god, Ra, right? But the problem was so they make these different images because God has no form, he has no shape, but he creates. So you could get to know God through the representations of nature. The problem was there became priests and sects, like religious sects, SECT, but like all these things, and they were competing against each other. And eventually Akhenaten said, okay, let's scrap this as one God. That's what I think. That's why I think he did that. And I've looked at the history. There's a strong correlation between the Bible and Egypt. I mean, Joseph and his colorful coat, he went to Egypt, and then like Moses freeing his people from Egypt, the story goes, and Abraham went to Egypt and gave his wife basically to the Pharaoh and lied. Okay, so he lied that his wife was his sister so the Pharaoh would sleep with him. Here's a question. Does the Bible actually say whether Pharaoh had a child with this lady or not? Right? So topic for another video, but there's a strong correlation between Egypt and the Bible. And I know the Bible attacks Egypt, but well, there was a pharaoh in Egypt called Pepi, and he was a foreigner, and he did something really ironic for a pharaoh, which was none of the Egyptians would worship Apep, but Pepi did, and that's also where a lot of the story comes in. Anyways, little nuggets. I can't get into too much detail because I see the timer is at 31 minutes. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Hope you all have, a wonderful day. It's a Saturday. Awesome. Cheers.